a month.
Were you able to get the information out to your people at all?
Small in-person audience. We look forward to this filling out, but this is the nature of our hybrid events. We have folks in the room and folks online. For those of you online, thank you for joining us for this Wednesday gathering, our bi-monthly Wednesday gathering. One of our Wednesday gatherings is virtual only, and one of them today is a hybrid where we will have lunch for those here after this gathering. And those of you at home, I'm sorry, you have to have your own lunch. My name is Kim Schultz, and I'm the manager of interreligious affairs here at CTS, and I'm very happy to welcome everyone to this Wednesday gathering where we are focusing on clergy wellness, and the word that I really like included in with that is flourishing. Clergy wellness and flourishing, and I look very forward to the conversation with our guest today, led by my colleague, Reverend Brian E. Smith. There will be time for questions and dialogue as always at the end, so hang on to any thoughts and questions or musings and things that pop up for you through which I'm sure is going to be a very interesting dialogue today. And I would just like now to start our gathering together as we always do with a words of gathering, a centering moment for us to come together as a group, both virtual and in person. And today I am so honored to know honored to introduce a face that will be very familiar to most people here, and that is Lisa Zook. Lisa Zook, Reverend Zook, has been a colleague of ours here at CTS for a long time, was the former Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and a dear friend of mine, and very grateful for her presence today, who will go ahead and open it up with speaking about wellness and some of her journey, I'm sure, and I look forward to what Lisa's going to share. So I pass it to my friend Lisa to open us up. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kim, and hi, everyone. Can you all hear me, see me, all that stuff? Great, thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a twice CTS alum, and when I graduated for the second time from CTS, I made my career there. So I was first in admissions, then with the Interreligious Institute, and then, as Kim mentioned, with the Department of Strategic Initiatives. I'm on extended medical leave now because 15 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and that included tumors in my liver and in my lung. Since that time, I persevere through chemotherapy treatments that have been successful, thank God, but some days feel intolerable. Today feels good, and especially good because I see your faces here. So given that our topic is health and wellness, perhaps I am an odd choice to welcome us to this space, but I have strangely felt a sense of not exactly wellness, but definitely wholeness in this cancer journey. So let me start by naming my own particularity and location. I grew up culturally Christian in a family that was generally agnostic. And not only agnostic, but they just weren't interested in entertaining sort of the big questions, right? What happens after we die? Why are some children born in a war zone and I was born in a sterile hospital in Chicago? If God exists, who made God? From my earliest days, these kind of questions plagued me. And sometimes it felt lonely because my questions weren't shared or engaged. And if I'm honest and I look back, the first people that I really was able to share these questions with were my own 3 children. When my son was 9 years old, we were talking about the concept of heaven. And I remember him saying, well, Mom, no one can go to heaven. And he went on to explain that heaven is infinite, and infinity by definition has no beginning and no end. So in order to be in that infinite state, you have to have always already been there. My mind was blown, but my curiosity was piqued. And it's that same kind of curiosity that found me working as a youth minister at a UCC church, packing up 25 of my youth group high school students from our white suburban UCC congregation in Southwest Michigan for a weekend with 25 high school students from Trinity United Church of Christ on Chicago's South Side. An immersive and transformative weekend that was hosted and facilitated by CTS-MDiv students and faculty. The weekend that eventually led me to study and then to work at CTS, where I found my people who share in that same curiosity about life and faith and spirituality and justice and love and all of it, right? And so my heart and my spirit have grown and soared through my education, the friendships, the challenges, and through the love of this CTS community. And I now find my healing grounded in this community, even as I live with incurable cancer. This community understands the both ands of life and faith. Faith is believing, and faith is doubting. Hope can feel like fear, and fear can feel like hope. Love brings comfort, and love brings despair. Chemotherapy is demonic, and chemotherapy is my lifeline. Cancer is a curse robbing me of my time on earth, and cancer is the gift of time. This cancer experience is slow, not in the sense of passing slowly or being boring or taking too long. This kind of slow isn't really about time at all, or at least not linear time. What I'm rediscovering is a new kind of slow, a new kind of time. I think maybe we all knew this kind of slow as infants when we come into the world full of curiosity and wonder, when we were toddlers squatting down on a sidewalk to investigate the ants, when we're young and just lost in a world of imagination and magic, when time was not our focus. So maybe we can uncover and recover it in ourselves, this sense of slowness, because I always and forever am still that infant. I'm still that 6-year-old little girl with missing front teeth. I'm still that 20-something young woman trying to find my way. I'm that young mother learning alongside my children, and I'm now my 57-year-old self with cancer. And I'm all those moments in between. I carry them in my bones and in my soul and in my essence. Life is slow in ways I had forgotten. I think I conflated time and living. I wonder if I spent so much time doing that I forgot how to simply be. Cancer has allowed me to prioritize daydreams, to slip into reverie, to find moments of joy watching birds at the feeder, burying my fingers in the soft fur of my pets, listening to my husband Jake's gentle snoring at night, sometimes making my breath match his, staying awake when I should be sleeping to just breathe with him, letting the memories flow. Memories show up, and I'm invited to literally step into them. I feel my children as infants. The feel of their small heads tucked under my chin, their milk-scented breath, the wonder of birthing them, those early days cocooned together. And then a new memory long forgotten opens, and I am young and running in the backyard with my brother on a hot summer day, and I feel my child-sized body, my energy, my legs, the smell of the grass, our laughter, the cold water from the hose, a day to lie in the grass and spy creatures and animals in the clouds and to laugh with my brother, my first best friend. The memories keep opening, vibrant and inviting, alongside the tears of awe, bigger than sorrow, weighted in reverence. I let them run down my cheeks or back toward my ear, meandering like a river, grounding and nurturing and growing this awe, this astonishment, this appreciation for life, until I slip into it like long underwear, like silk long underwear, so slight I barely feel it. And yet I am warmed and held and cared for by my own awe, my memories, my joy, my astonishment of this life, of this love. And I'm flooded with gratitude. Gratitude, powerful, tear-flowing, ground-shifting gratitude. And who do I thank? Who do I thank for my cancer? This fucking cancer, excuse me, that allows me to uncover and recover this feeling, these memories, this cancer that makes me relish every moment with the people I love so fiercely. To understand that I will never be ready to leave them, and they will never be ready to let me go. And yet we will do so when the time comes, because we know there will never be enough linear time. But we also know that there is time eternal that lives already within us and beyond us. Time when we're not an age or a profession or confined to a schedule. Time beyond bounds, when we are all ourselves, all at the same time, where we are all together and healed and whole. Amen. Whew. So y'all know, I have to switch gears a little here, sorry. I have the wonderful privilege of turning the stage now to my dear friend, the Reverend Brian Smith. And I am just, so Brian and I began working together around the time that the pandemic started. And it started with a grant that we received from the Luce Foundation to provide sort of emergency care during the pandemic. And Brian was responsible for overseeing the part of this grant that was about clergy wellness in that moment, recognizing the crucial role that clergy were playing and the unique stresses that they were finding themselves under from all sorts of pressures from the pandemic and trying to figure out how to pastor in that time and place. And what started as a very limited project, almost an experimental kind of grant under the guidance of Reverend Smith, has grown and blossomed and changed shape and morphed and moved to accommodate new contexts and new times, and continues to grow and to thrive and to flourish. And Brian himself is a person who I'm so privileged to know, because Brian, you make me grow and thrive and flourish. And so with that, Brian, let me just turn it over to you, and thank you for allowing me to be here with y'all today.
Amen. Thank you, Lisa. Love you dearly. I invite you all, after hearing that message, I invite you all to just take a moment and breathe. Just take a deep breath. And recognize the miracle that has just taken place. Thank you, Lisa, for reminding us of time and the gift that it is to us. I'm not one who imitates, but I must emulate our beloved leader, who says that where there is no music, the Spirit will not come. I just want to invite you all to sing with me very quickly as we begin. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. Someone singing, my Lord, kumbaya. Someone singing, my Lord, kumbaya. Someone singing, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya. So, why are we here? I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to serve and to be present primarily with faith leaders. And as Lisa noted, this started in 2020 as I began this journey with probably close to 100 clergy persons in total. And then even prior to that, now nearing a decade of work in higher education and seminaries, I've had the blessing to be able to convene and connect with probably close to 1,000 clergy to date. And one of the things that I noticed, because I'm not a clinician, I'm a convener, but I had the opportunity to listen to so many voices, leaders who in many cases had no one else to talk to. And because I was able to hear and keep my mouth shut, they shared their stories with me. And so I bring with me a collective experience with individuals who have been charged to give their lives to ministry. And there's some things that I've learned. I thought I'd reference an article about clergy burnout just to give you guys some feedback, but I want you to know that I also have feedback from my own experiences. But I want to read this quote. Pastors attribute spiritual significance to their work. So it's a whole life, whole self thing, said Adams, one of the summit speakers, and an ordained Methodist minister, as well as a clinical psychologist. People expect them, the ministers or the clergy persons to be omnipresent, giving pastoral care in the grocery aisle at 10 p.m. Do I have any clergy persons that identify with that statement? You can say amen right now. And so what I have discovered is that we ask so much of faith leaders, but we don't want to extend the same salvation, Sabbath, and in many cases, salary to them that they deserve. And so for me, this work is deeply personal as I consider the voices that have shared their deepest hopes and concerns with me. And so I have 3 other colleagues who have joined me in this effort to care for clergy that do so much for so many. Prior to our panel, I want to show a video featuring a recent wellness presentation that we made to clergy in the fall of 2023.
My name is Reverend Brian E. Smith. I'm Director of Community Relations and Strategic Partnerships at the Chicago Theological Seminary. Permission to Rest is an opportunity for us to encourage a culture of wellness and wholeness, specifically for those who lead in our faith communities. It's an opportunity for us to give them permission to Sabbath. Quite often we find that clergy persons work very hard and they have high demands placed upon them, and rarely do they take the opportunity to care for themselves. So what we want to do in this, them know that they are just as important as the ministries that they strive so hard to support and care for.
To walk with God is ultimately to be in the presence of the presence. When we as preachers walk with God, when we give ourselves permission to Sabbath, people will walk by us and say, "The presence of the Lord is here. The presence of the Lord is here."
You gotta heal the inside and the outside of the situation. Quite often, those of us who are engaged in equipping leaders, particularly leaders with an activist and prophetic orientation, function only on the exterior manifestation of what is going on. But there are interior aspects of the social order and interior aspects of us as leaders, and we must attend with care to the interiority, and that's what this initiative is about.
The work of clergy goes 24/7. There are always challenges. They always respond to familial crises, community issues, and we can't anticipate when those issues might emerge. So clergy have a very difficult time carving out space during their weeks just to care for themselves, to rest, to sleep, and to recover. So what we want to do is change that paradigm to let the community know that we have human beings that are committing their lives to a very special cause, but their lives should be included in their work. And so we want to ensure that we care for clergy.
I really want to fill the gap between where I am at now and where I want to be at. I found the way to fill the gap to pursue wellness through this retreat.
We wanted to have a comprehensive conference that would allow us to look at the entire body, both in terms of meditation, focusing on one's vocation, and then of course the physical aspects of health, including diet, rest, and recovery.
I would like you all to repeat after me. When I eat better, I will feel better.
When I eat better, I will feel better.
So we tried to cover a broad range of areas of wellness including a massage therapist. We're going to do some dancing. As you can see, we're relaxed. We're going to make sure that we focus on how we eat. So we'll have a presentation by a chef to show how we can make healthy meals quickly. We're going to have a juicer to talk about the advantages of juicing and how we utilize fruits and vegetables in order to enrich our bodies.
Lord, if you lead me, I will not stray.
My name is Dr. Janet K. Copeland, and I am a resident of Richmond, Virginia, student. I just graduated in 22 from Chicago Theological Seminary with my doctorate degree. We were taught today that a lot of people, a lot of clergy feel that they need permission because we feel like in the churches, you know, especially if you're a pastor, you really can't, the church can't run without you being there. But there comes time where even Christ took a sabbatical to get away from people, because you're dealing with spirits, all kind of spirits when it comes to the work of the ministry. And believe me, you need time. Juicing teaches us how to take care of ourselves in a different way of eating. We're using everything from the earth, and that's what God says, live off the earth.
Certainly the juicing, getting the right nutrients, the idea of meditating, the idea of sharing ourselves with others beyond just going through the motions, but really being vulnerable with other people. With Dr. Braxton, the idea of we need to be present to be in the presence. It's making me rethink and how I have robbed myself and robbed my people by not being more serious about it.
It's okay for the pastor to take the break to get the rest, that they're not a superhuman, they're just a regular human that needs the same breaks that everyone else. And so grace needs to be extended on behalf of the members so that they respect the pastor's family, that pastor's time to spend with family and to replenish and refresh, and to provide resources so that the pastor can get away, get some rest, relaxation, get a break, and the pulpit still be supplied, the ministry still move forward.
My name is Dr. Kate Lassiter. I am the Senior Director of Lifelong Learning at Meadville Lombard Theological School and also a yoga and meditation instructor. Yeah, meditation and yoga is a particular kind of spiritual practice that you know, has traditional roots in the Indian subcontinent, but has application and has moved all around the world. And it's just a wonderful way to connect with yourself, with your community, and then with God. Look, it has physical benefits, it has physical health benefits, it has spiritual health benefits, and I think emotional health benefits as well. So it's a way to regulate and a way to really attend to the self, to care and nurture for the self. And we do it in a community. So that's the beautiful part of this, is that it's also in held in a communal kind of sense of care.
Wellness is a journey of awareness. Wellness is not perfection. Wellness is not just excellence. It's a journey.
Permission to Sabbath is exactly that. Giving yourself permission to take time to be the best version of yourself. That best version of yourself can include rest, relaxation, restoration. It can include incorporating the aspects of physicality, some type of resistance training, emotional, some type of how do I feel about today, psychological. How am I thinking? Am I thinking the best version of myself?
I'm guilty of feeling like if I didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. And revelation is, you know, hey, if I don't do it and it doesn't get done, maybe God didn't want it done in the first place.
We need to create in our religious communities permission structures. Permission to allow those who are leading and facilitating to take some time off. I used a wonderful quotation and thought from Rabbi Abraham Heschel, who in his wonderful book, The Sabbath, says, the Sabbath is that radical idea that God can handle the world for 24 or maybe even 48 hours without us. So I am hopeful that communities will create permission for their leaders to take time to heal, to rest.
We have to be careful about thinking about God and what we're able to do, limited by our humanity, instead of opening ourselves up to the process of faithfulness, of coaching, with the empowerment of the Spirit,
to enable ourselves to do things that under normal circumstances we would never do.
I am deeply concerned about the health and the livelihood of those who serve others, whether it be in a church context, whether you be a chaplain, whatever the case may be. I am very concerned about caring for faith leaders. We need faith leaders in order to help our communities thrive and grow. And so we will have healthy communities if we have healthy faith leaders.
So awesome opportunity. And that has led us to additional opportunities, specifically with the Lilly Foundation, where now we have an additional supplemental grant enabling us to work with a team to develop a national program for clergy wellness. And so I've invited my team members here today. Some of them you saw in the video, and then we have a new team member who I'm glad to be connected with. Becky, is she present? Okay. We have representatives from the Catholic Leadership Institute that will speak to us later, and then I'm going to allow Brother Larry Love to talk about his observations and his experiences in dealing with wellness for clergy. And then I will invite the other panelists to come thereafter. Is she on? Okay, awesome. She'll come after Larry.
Well, good morning / good afternoon. Thank you for being here today, and it's always a pleasure to speak amongst the people that are for the people. And you know, when it comes to wellness, it's close to home for me, particularly of clergy, because I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid. And I'm also a grand PK. I'm also a great-grand PK. So I'm from a lineage of preachers. You know, I own a practice in Westmont. It's total body wellness and performance, and under that umbrella, it's also Momentum Health and Performance. And one of the things that I'm so excited to do today is, because clergy's in front of me and working with clergy a lot, is for you all to understand, as I said on the video, wellness is a journey. How we get to that journey, it's individual, it's also unique, but guess what? It's also intentional. And you all deserve a break just like anyone else. You all need to recharge your social battery, your psychological battery, your spiritual battery, your physical battery, your emotional battery, but also your psychological battery. And that's the umbrella of what wellness is under. And so we also have to understand that in this day-to-day attempt to be well, the intentions that involve being well sometimes comes from a support system, but it also comes from the ability to say, you know what, I do come first, but it's not from a selfish perspective, it's from a Me Too perspective. And I think once you all gather that insight and accept that insight that Me Too is not being selfish, it means that I want to be the best I can be while I can be that. You know, circumstances will often indicate kind of how we react to things. And when individuals come to you or groups come to you and in the midnight hour and you have to have these late dinners or these conversations, or, you know, just be present at times where you're maybe, you know, not fully charged, your battery is just drained. We have to reevaluate, where's our wellness? Is our wellness, is it left behind? Are we looking forward to it another day? But, you know, what's behind and what's in front of us, we really can't get to yet. So we all have to be intentional about demonstrating and practicing our wellness in this present moment. You all are practicing wellness now, because wellness is education. Wellness is also being attentive to learning different opportunities. Wellness is also a support system, as I said before. And one of the great things about clergy wellness that that I continue to discover every day is it's just another layer to what you guys already are doing, but maybe there's a better way to do it. Not saying you're doing anything wrong, but there is a more maybe efficient way, a more effective way, a more engaging way. And once we kind of start to incorporate and discover those opportunities, because that's what wellness is, it's not only a journey, but it's an opportunity, we will begin to see that it's something that's a lifelong journey. It's something that we adopt forever. It's not just a segment of one day, it's a lifestyle. And that lifestyle journey that everyone has the opportunity to pursue, it will become a better you. It will become a more energized you. And most important, you'll really learn how to restore and be, utilize recovery to be the best you can be, not only from a clergy standpoint, but just as a personal standpoint.
Thank you, Larry. Our team recently met about a month ago, and I want to introduce to you Becky Reilly, who is with the Catholic Leadership Institute. And she's a bright individual. I'll allow her to share a little bit about her context, but together we are working on a national plan to try to address some of the issues related to clergy wellness. So we'll receive her at this time.
Thank you so much, Brian. First, I just want to say thank you to Lisa again. Thank you for the gift of your words and the way in which they are grounding our conversation today and just giving our work a higher purpose. So thank you. I am so thrilled to be here with you today. I'm blessed to be working, thanks to the funding from the Lilly Endowment, Inc., with Chicago Theological Seminary, and particularly alongside Brian, James, and Larry, who are three individuals so committed to care for clergy. These men are passionate, they are talented, and they care so deeply. So it's been a gift to work alongside you and get to know you better. I have the joy and privilege to be working for the mission of Catholic Leadership Institute, which is a nonprofit organization that is really just filled with deep love for our clergy. All of our mission flows forth from this love. And that love is shared by James, Larry, Brian. It is shared by all of us today on this call. And our goal in this endeavor is to care for the whole person of the clergy, spiritually, professionally, mentally, and corporally. When we assess where we're falling short of that goal, caring for the physical health of clergy is an area that's just sorely overlooked across denominations. Our cohort strongly believes that if we can get our clergy to be physically healthy, they're going to have the energy, vitality, the endurance to walk with more people towards Jesus Christ. And I want to give you a background on two quick things to really just kind of root where we're going to go with this work. And first, I want to share with you a story, a painful story about the impact that physical health can have on a person's life. Share with you the story of a 16-year-old boy named Guy. Guy grew up in a rough area of Philadelphia, right near I live right now. He was a star football player, destined for college football and possibly beyond. He was the youngest of 5 children. He was a joy to his family. Guy was murdered in his sophomore year of high school. He was brutally murdered, laying down his life for a friend. After a valiant battle, Guy lost his life, and his oldest brother, Dan, decided that day he would murder the man that took his brother's life. There was no changing his mind. Dan was committed to enacting justice on his terms. Guy and Dan's mother prayed fervently to the Lord, "Please, Lord, I've lost one son. Do not let me lose another through this murderous act." She prayed and she prayed, and as he always does, God answered in his own ways. The day Dan prepared to carry forth his plot, he was stopped in his tracks. He put down his weapon, he put on his sneakers, he made a decision. He decided to go for a run. 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. At the end of those 3 miles, he felt the Lord's guidance. He realized, I cannot go through with this murder. Instead, for the next several decades, he channeled his grief through running 3 miles, 3 days a week for decades. Running and health changed this man's life. That man has passed down the benefits of physical health, benefits that can be life-changing and life-saving to his family and to his daughters. That man is my father, and that man is where my love for health and fitness began. That man is why I know this missing piece of the puzzle for our clergy must be found, it must be examined, it must be explored. I'm a better mother, a better worker in the vineyard, and a better follower of Christ because I prioritize my health. I'm a 5-time marathon runner, But this race for our clergy is where I know God wants me to be running right now, and I'm thrilled to be running alongside my partners. I know that physical health can be the thing that changes everything. And that's a transformation that we're really seeking for our pastors through this grant. Their story might be slightly different, but the impact can be just as, if not more, powerful than the story I shared. Right now, we're working together for these pastors. And when I think of why, I think of one word: worthy. We realize that our shepherds are entrusted with the great, beautiful, difficult, tiring, overwhelming responsibility of bringing Christ to us and bringing us to Christ. They and you are worthy of the best possible support, worthy of being holistically cared for and prepared for this grace-filled vocation, worthy of the best leadership practices the church can have to offer. They are worthy of being cared for as priests, clergy, pastors, and people, worthy of good health, nourishment of souls and bodies, worthy of rest and of growth. But we realize we're falling short, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're working. We realize that missing piece of holistic care is physical health. The work that Brian, Larry, James, and my team are doing seeks to do better, to pick up where we are falling short, to learn, listen, gather data, pilot, try new things, be innovative for clergy physical health. We've seen pastors retiring early. We've seen unwell pastors unable to live their vocation how they hoped. We've seen sick pastors leave their role as pastor because they just can't keep up. We've seen pastors pass away too soon. And we cannot stand by and just watch. We feel called to act. And that's really the mission of this work together that we're doing under the support of the Lilly Endowment. Our goal is to support happier, healthier, and holier pastors. We're going to listen and learn. We're going to root our work in theological framework. We're going to collaborate. We're going to experiment. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard. We're going to learn. We're going to pilot a model for clergy health and wellness. It's going to focus on nutrition, movement, wellness, and prayer. We're going to set the foundation for something that can grow for any denomination. And we're going to be praying every step of the way. So this opportunity is really going to galvanize our ability to focus on the missing piece of this puzzle. We believe that this is the first step in a national effort that's really going to revolutionize care, love, and health for our leaders. Leaders who are, as I said, worthy of this care and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. We're going to pivot to our last panelist, one who I have a very special relationship with, and he won't mind me sharing. There was a moment after the pandemic. He was one of the clergy persons that I was serving during the Luce Foundation days, but there was a moment when he, along with two other very close colleagues, became gravely ill. And for a period of 8 months, I was on the phone with one of them every day, literally checking in, praying. And at the time, we didn't know what was taking place, and it was a very scary moment. I'm grateful that he is here by my side, but there were moments when we didn't know what would happen next. But one of those colleagues that I'm referring to actually had a heart transplant during this period. The other had congestive heart failure. And so that is when this work became very real to me. And of course, also my experience with my former supervisor, Lisa. And to carry that every day, to have people that you love suffering, really makes you think about the work of caring for clergy in a very different way. And I want him to come to you in his own way to share his experiences, both as a participant in the program and as one who battled health challenges and one who has been transformed through the process. Reverend Dr. James Foster.
Thank you so much, Reverend Smith. Let me begin by thanking all of you. Of course, I was really moved by the words of Lisa Zook. They feel personal to me. So let me first just say thank you. I've been able, for the last 3 years, to participate in the Reilly program. I was a mentor during that program. Of course, I've had a relationship with Reverend Brian Smith. My story kind of in the midst of that starts with a moment where we're coming off a vacation. We went out of the country to just sort of rest and recover because my wife and partner in ministry, Jerry Foster, had just gone through a year of cancer treatments. And we thought, okay, let's get away and let's take a moment to recover. So we went on vacation for 10 days, came back home, seemed like everything was fine. We both felt like we were refreshed. She began to do a lot better and also now is doing well, a year and a half cancer-free. But so I went back to work. I am director of operations for the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago, just your neighbors, just to the north, and began to work. And I noticed after a few days that I didn't have much of an appetite. That ended up in me actually losing my appetite. I saw 6 doctors. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. Every doctor that had their specialty, I sort of passed that test. Meanwhile, I'm just losing weight. I ended up losing 153 pounds. Several trips to the emergency room, just a very, very difficult situation. This is what I want to share with you during that time. I learned the importance of the ministry of presence. The fact that I was plugged in, not just to my own community at Lutheran, but also your community. Reverend Smith wouldn't just call me to check on me. Here's what he did, and this was significant for me. And I'm bringing this up because it's part of my system of well-being now, which I think is very important. He would call and he would say, Reverend, I just want to go through this with you. He would call and say, how are we doing today? And if I was having a bad day, he said, okay, we're doing bad today. How are we doing today? Brian, I'm having a good day. He would say, so today we're having a good day. He journeyed with me. Didn't ask me, what are they saying? What's going on? Just would call, say, just want to let you know I'm here. I love you and I'm here. The power of the ministry of presence meant everything to me in those moments, right? So that's one. And then a funny thing happened. Not funny, haha, funny, it's just sort of, and I do that because part of my system of well-being is my use of humor. I mean, it's pretty intense. There are times where Jerry would just walk by and she would just look at me and just cry. It's how intense it is, right? And so we found ways of using humor and bringing the girls around. We have 2 daughters and a son, bringing them around as part of our system of well-being, just they've been putting up with my sort of dad jokes. And then a strange thing happened, and that is, and I don't say this to be funny, Brian's right, we didn't know what was wrong. That's an extreme amount of weight to lose, right? I didn't die. I survived, which is another part of the wellness journey. Because what happened, I'll share this with you briefly, is I had what I call an extreme moment of clarity. I had convinced myself that I had needed all of these things in my life and probably convinced God, I need all these things. But getting on the other side and saying, okay, I survived, extreme clarity. I went through this sort of purge of getting rid of things that I didn't need and realizing that all of these things I convinced myself were important, the stuff that occupied, just the tapes that are playing behind my eyes, all of these things that kept me busy, I didn't need all of those things. While all of those things were important, there were actually some things that were more important than others. And so I thank God for the clarity of coming out of that moment. There's another part, and I'll end with this, with the wellness journey. That is the journey in recovery, right? How we are sort of healing and getting better. And so I just want to thank you for all the work that you started. I thank God for the gift of me really realizing being pulled out of theory and into the reality of real practice of what it means. And so, Reverend, I want to thank you and the work that you are doing here at CTS and the fact that we're able to recover together. Of course, we'll end up saying more in the work that we do. Thank you.
So I knew that we would use a significant amount of time just sharing our journey but I think it's very important for you all to know where the impetus for our work comes from. One of the things I want to point out in my work with clergy, coming on 10 years now, one recurring theme that I have noticed and that the entire team has noticed that we hear from clergy most often, it's not just simply physical wellness that clergy battle, but all of them have stated, especially since the pandemic, is the feeling of being alone. That's the one prevailing theme that comes up in our work. That was the one thing that we agreed on as we were talking about what to address. This idea that I am here all by myself and I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders and there's nobody else to help me bear that weight. And so a specific part of our work involves helping clergy not to be alone. And some of you, this may resonate with you. You may understand exactly what I'm saying. And the pandemic really pushed a lot of clergy over the edge, regardless of denomination or religion. The one thing that I heard from my rabbis, my imams, and my pastors is that I am just so glad that I found this community where I would not be by myself. So I know we have about 10 minutes left. I'm surprised how quickly the time has gone, but we want to open the floor for you all to raise any questions or comments that you might have at this time. Any questions? Anybody online with any questions for us about our work?
My hand is up, so I'm just going to start talking because I don't know if you all can see me. But I think and this theme is evident, but I just wanted to bring it out. I think there is something unique about those of us who are called to ministry, who are called to minister, who feel called to care for others, right? There's something that we all share that often results in us putting our own needs to the back burner, right? And saying, you know, others are more important, right? My own needs are over here, right? I don't have time for them because all these other people need me so much. And so I think that this work, Brian, that you through the Luce Foundation and others continue to engage in for thinking about wellness for clergy in particular, for faith leaders, right? I think it's so important to be able to to look at the particularities of what it means to be in ministry and also caring for oneself in that. So just offering that up.
So I'm going to pose a question to the audience at large. What do you all think are some of the reasons why clergy put wellness last instead of as a priority? And does anyone could stand up and answer?
Don't all stand up at once. You know what fascinates me is that when I was reading some of the studies, they said clergy often will not rate their health. They will not speak out. They will not. It's an awful tendency that clergy have, and I think you kind of see it there. It's almost for clergy, it feels like a sin to demonstrate need. And again, this is something I've noticed because I'm a convener, not a clinician, but people feel comfortable sharing with me, even stuff that they may not want to share with the clinician because they feel like, well, the clinician is going to judge or make an assessment and make me make an adjustment that I might not want to make, whereas Brian will just hear me. And so this is the struggle, this is the battle. How do we create a dynamic, a space where people say, yes, I'm vulnerable, and I am open to receiving help.
My name is Bob Von Trebra. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm a CTS grad serving a church in the Denver area. I don't know if you can see it. There are some questions in the chat. I think Bill McGee asked the question, what is the best way to get started? Do you have suggestions? And maybe you can respond. I was just going to offer that if you get an opportunity, if you get some kind of a call to a church or other ministry setting or a job, is when you work out a call agreement or a job description, it probably is good to try to negotiate to actually include in it that you take at least one day off per week, and maybe even include in an evaluation about how you are doing on following up on that. So
let me say, one of the hopes of our planning committee is to not only provide education to clergy, but to congregations. We are discovering that the congregations need to be educated in terms of what we are discovering, and they need to learn how to give permission to the leadership to rest. And yes, I do think that perhaps, our group might be able to leverage our expertise and experience to tell congregations, put this in the job description. Just as you require the clergy person to preach and to visit the sick, require them to Sabbath and put it in the job description and enforce it. We have another question from Dr. Shelton.
It's not a question, it's just a comment that, like what you said, sometimes the congregation doesn't understand that you need rest. And when you say, I'm tired, I need a break, they don't want to give you that break. And you can feel that resistance to just slowing down. So yeah, I believe that the congregation needs to be educated as well.
Reverend, if I could, just might add some insight, and also it's a bit of a confession. I think that sometimes it can be sort of part of whatever your formation is as a clergy person, as a leader. I know for me, it was part of the culture. Like, I came from a long line of folks who said, hey, you got to work hard. My grandfather, my father had more than one job. My brother and I have definitely had more than one job most of our lives. And so just that work ethic, right? I'm not blaming it on that. I'm trying to explain that kind of shaping and framing influenced me in such a way where overworking became somewhat of a badge of honor. I remember saying one time, like, I've preached on Sunday and taught Wednesday night, or every Wednesday night for the last 10 years. Right now I know, right, the sort of what that comment really means. So some of that is, what work can we do on ourselves to sort of escape this habit gravity of overworking? How can we change the tapes that play behind our eyes to create like these new habits? So I think self-care, as you know, is a great beginning. It sounded like someone was asking, where do we start? I think self-care is a great place to start.
I think we are at the term of our presentation, and I believe Dr. Braxton will give us some closing words as he comes forth. Let me just say, this whole idea of self-care, we need to really reevaluate that. I've been thinking about that term. How about community care? Why do we put the responsibility only on the individual to care for themselves? How about the community caring and saying, no, we can see that there's an issue. Let's join together and care for this individual as a community.
Will you join me in expressing our gratitude for our panel in this marvelous? Hearing these reflections helps me to think about an extraordinarily painful and promising moment in my own ministry journey. It was the late spring and summer of 2009. It was clear that some decisions had to be made. And as we moved into the summer of 2009, that decision was made. And out of a sense of wellness for myself and my family, I willingly resigned the pastorate of one of the nation's flagship congregations. That resignation literally evoked interviews the same day with the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. I mean, this was public, y'all. It was done out of a sense of wellness because I did not want to be sick. I did not want those around me to be sick. One of the most significant interventions that happened was a beloved clinician who was caring for me, invited me to read a book that transformed my life. And to our conversation and to the question, one of the prohibitions to our permission to Sabbath are problematic and toxic forms of theology. Ooh. This clinician, who is a clergy, invited me to read Kirk Byron Jones's book, Holy Play. I commend it to you. Dr. Jones's book changed my life and transformed my approach to ministry and my prioritizing of wellness. Because in the book, Dr. Jones changes the framework. As we think about calling, he basically argues that calling is not rooted in God's demand. Calling is rooted in God's delight. God is not shaking a finger at you saying, make up your mind, and this is what you have to do because I need you to do it. God is playfully inviting us to do just that, engage in holy play. What would it look like if we changed the theological paradigm from one of divine demand to one of divine delight? Mama God has been waiting for us to tell her what brings us delight. And so in this marvelous conversation about wellness and about sustainability and longevity, I hear a marvelous note of delight. What a delightful opportunity to move from demand to, yes, just that. The delight of every now and again, just resting. And the best musicians I've ever known have always taught me, pay attention as well to those rest notes.
So this concludes our presentation. There are no additional comments or words, are there? No? Okay. Blessings to all of you who have joined, to those who are before us and those who have joined us via Facebook. And stay tuned as we do additional work to serve those who serve others. Blessings.